There's a certain very small and very irrelevant niche of content on the internet that's exclusive to just being detractors to the most popular and successful commentators in the community. These people's live shows are filled with dead air, brain dead talking points, complete dishonesty, and insane circular logic that can only be justified if you're just completely reactionary and hear words you like and just soy face. We saw a prime example of this the other day when on Doc on the Radio, an up-and-coming live streamer's stream, where he brought on two people, AuggieRFC, a commentator, and Grimsy, one of the detractors. And another detractor came on later, one of the most brain-dead individuals I have the privilege of introducing to you, Mr. Sin. So we're about to watch a clip here where Mr. Sin attempts to expose Auggie in some sort of logical or moral inconsistency. Basically, to give context, he's attempting to criticize Auggie for his recent debate with Mr. Girl. I brought this up in one of my previous videos, but Auggie went onto Mr. Girl's show and had a discussion with him. So let's watch the clip, and I'm going to break this down a bit.
Would you have a calm discussion
Even
with
I
Zero?
disagree with like every one of his fucking
Would you have a calm discussion with Zero? Ice cube in the pussy. Ice cube in the pussy. Ice cube in the pussy.
Wait, did you just ask me if I would have a calm conversation with Zero? Of course I would, you fucking retard.
Then why were you harping on tech for ice cubes in the pussy for so long, you fucking...
What are you talking about? You know Willie Mack wanted to talk to Zero. Notice how when Willie Mack wanted to talk to Zero, I never was like, oh my god, Willie wants to talk to a pedophile. Holy shit. No, because I'm not against that, you fucking retard.
All right, so I have to break this down step by step, which is actually insane, but it needs to be clear why people like Sin are just completely idiotic. His first question is about platforming. He attempted to criticize Auggie before this clip for having a discussion with Mr. Girl, someone they deem as a pedophile. I already did a video on Mr. Girl against him, and you can watch it here, but he asks Auggie, well, would you have a calm discussion with Zero? If by some chance you don't know who Zero is, it's someone who had allegations against him of him grooming a 14-year-old when he was 19. The allegations are pretty complicated. I'm not going to go into exactly everything on this video. I just don't have time for it, and that's not my point. But it's someone who Auggie heavily criticized technicals for making a video about Zero attempting to welcome him back into content creation. All right, now this question is clearly an attempt at an own, and you can obviously tell it is because you can just hear it in Sin's voice. He tries to get it in like 3 separate times, and then finally once he gets it out, you can tell he thinks he just completely got Auggie. But this question is strictly about platforming. That's the problem. Would you have a calm discussion with Zero? Platforming with a calm discussion? Yes, that's what Auggie answered. That's the end of it. But then somehow Sin attempts to jump logic here and asks a question about technicals and Auggie's personal opinion about what he thinks of Zero, as if there's any correlation in the first question. Then why did you harp so hard on technicals about Ice Cube in the pussy? And then he says it like 5 times, just with his slurring voice where he sounds completely brain dead. There's no correlation to what Auggie thinks about technicals or what Auggie thinks about Zero to answer the question, would you have a calm discussion with Zero? There is literally no logical correlation there. The only attempt at a logical correlation here is if you can use this hypothetical to prove Auggie is inconsistent. But Sin just proved Auggie's consistency, and that yes, he would have a calm discussion with someone like Zero just as much as he did with Mr. Girl. The funny thing is, it's such a strange question because if Sin was asked the same thing, I'm sure he would say yes to Zero and I guess no to Mr. Girl, which is just a different way of handling platforming, but in no way shows any inconsistency in Auggie's morals and who he would platform. And obviously another thing is that there's some implication here that Auggie's platforming Mr. Girl because he agrees with Mr. Girl. Once again, before this clip, Sin attempts to say that Auggie wasn't disagreeing and wasn't arguing with Mr. Girl. He literally says, that was not a disagreement.
Would you have... No, that was not a disagreement. Would you have a calm...
But again, Sin proves Auggie's consistency with this absolutely idiotic question. All this does for Auggie is have him say, yes, I don't like Zero, and I think that Zero is a freak, but I would still have a calm discussion with him on my stream. So platforming has nothing to do with whether I agree with them or endorse their views. I'm just so surprised that Sin managed to try to own Auggie and instead just completely logically proved that Auggie is consistent in his views and just made Sin look like a complete dumbass. Another thing about Mr. Girl that these people don't realize is that you don't disprove Mr. Girl's logic by watching his videos or having a discussion with him and just jumping in and saying, you're a pedophile, you're a pedophile, you're a pedophile, and freaking out. That is how Mr. Girl wins, unironically, because he keeps his composure and he makes arguments, although I think they're illogical and I've already proven that they're illogical. He makes arguments that sound nice, and when he keeps his composure, he looks like the smarter one, even though I disagree with him. So it's unironically irresponsible to just freak out and make yourself look like a raging maniac when Mr. Girl comes on screen. In fact, here's a clip of Technicals and Augie, two people who have had major disagreements in the past, having a calm discussion about Augie's calm discussion with Mr. Girl. And they speak about the benefits of doing such, in that Mr. Girl's logic got to be exposed and he got to elaborate on more things.
I just thought it'd be bad because you've said stuff like line them up against the wall, right? Like in the past. So I figured people would be like, oh, dude, you need to, like, it's not enough energy.
We disagreed on a lot of points, and I think I did a decent job backing up my main disagreements. I think if I just had any criticism for myself, it's the same criticism I always give myself, is I could have gone harder or in more detail. I'm not really a debate bro person, but overall, I think it was a pretty all right conversation. It seemed productive, and most of the criticism that I've seen has been, pretty fucking ridiculous. So I don't know. I think
you get criticism no matter what, honestly.
If anything, you got him to elaborate. One of the things I thought was weird when he was talking about Boblax's sister was it almost sounded like he was justifying grooming. Like he didn't understand power dynamics or anything, because it
sounded strange. There was one particular.
Anyway, I'm just going to cut off the clip because they just continue to talk about that logic and explain why Mr. Girl seems incorrect. But imagine if these guys just came on stream and started screaming, Mr. Girl's a pedophile. He's a pedophile. He sucks. He's a pedophile. And then just watch some of his content and then we're just like, he's a pedophile. He's a pedophile. I mean, I'm sorry, but that's just brain-lit content, and it just makes you look like a loser, and it makes Mr. Girl look like the genius. Whereas what Augie and Technicals are doing here, and what I've done, is take apart Mr. Girl's arguments, break them down, and explain straightforward why he's wrong or why he's sus. And the only way you can get these arguments out of somebody like Mr. Girl is if you have a calm discussion with him to the point where he will elaborate on his points and you can get information out of him. But somehow, I can't believe I have to explain this because this literally seems like it should be common sense, but to these people, it actually isn't. Like, they really don't understand it. I've said that line so much recently, like, it seems like common sense, but to these people, it's not. And genuinely, it's because there's so many small-brained people on this community. Like, it actually is insane. So yes, the absolute state of detractors is just completely far gone. They don't make points, they don't know what they're saying, they're clueless about what they're talking about. They soy face over these weird random arguments that make no sense at all when you actually break it down. And the problem is, most of the time content creators will just say you're fucking stupid and then they'll move on. Which is true, to be honest, they are fucking stupid. But sometimes it really needs to be explained and nailed right into their heads why they're wrong. And I've done a pretty good job of explaining that in this video. I mean, literally the only possible criticism you could have left is that Augie didn't go hard enough on Mr. Girl, I guess. But to say that he didn't disagree with Mr. Girl is, one, completely incorrect, and two, irresponsible, because Augie did disagree with Mr. Girl, and also Augie needed to have a calm discussion with someone like Mr. Girl in order to get out these arguments from him so it can later be picked apart and criticized. And before they try to say, well, our criticism is just that he didn't go hard enough. No, it's not. That is not your criticism, and you're lying once again. When Sin comes in and talks about, you had a calm discussion with a pedophile, you had a calm discussion with a pedophile, and then saying, would you have a calm discussion with Zero? The obvious implication there and the problem is calm. What Sin expects Augie to do, or I guess what Sin himself would do, is not have a calm discussion with Mr. Girl, but rather just go in and rage at him. I mean, I'm sorry, but you're just idiotic. No one who's watching Mr. Girl's content is going to see someone like Augie come in, chimp out, scream pedophile, and all of a sudden think, oh, you know what? He's actually right. I know I've been watching Mr. Girl's live streams for the past 2 days, but thanks to this asshole who randomly came in and called him a pedophile, all of a sudden now I think he's a pedophile. Thanks for opening my eyes. No, dumbass, that's not how any of this works. To attack someone logical, you have to be logical. To attack someone who's a raging idiot, you can be a raging idiot. But Mr. Girl isn't a raging idiot. Oh, God, I feel like I'm a broken record at this point, but it's seriously just irritating to watch these people just completely flop around. Sin, complete idiot. I didn't even get to Grimsy in this video, which I could, but honestly, Grimsy completely humiliated himself, and even his own fans and followers, the few that he has on Twitter, actually agree he lost. I mean, he looked like completely pathetic. At one point, he brought up a point that he thought that Augie didn't go hard enough against Mr. Girl when Mr. Girl was bringing up Boblax and Boblax's sister. Augie didn't shut it down fast enough. And Augie literally did after like probably 30 seconds. Mr. Girl was attempting to argue with Augie about something regarding Boblax's personal life. And Augie said he doesn't want to talk about it. And then when Augie said, hey, asshole, actually, I did shut it down. And I called Boblax after and apologized for it. Grimsy immediately switched to another criticism and just refused to bring up the Boblax point again. I mean, these people are just completely dishonest and they're total idiots. But you know what? Sometimes you need idiots in life because it lets you shit on them and break apart their logic and expose them for just being completely inconsistent and brain dead. So anyway, that was a little rant I had about the absolute state of detractors. It's just completely pathetic. Let me know if you guys want to see more of this shit because I didn't even cover I only covered like 20% of the BS I saw just in the past day. I mean, there was so much shit that I saw just like literally in the past 24 hours that is completely logically inconsistent, and I could break it apart and break it down. If you guys like this, let me know because I'll do more videos about it. Now, I will be taking a break for about a week because I'm going on vacation. I might upload one video during the next week, maybe not. I will be back though next Tuesday, I believe. Either Tuesday or Wednesday, I'll be back, and then I'll start the daily grind again. I'm going to be back on it, making content, and it's going to be great. So thanks guys for watching, and peace.